people you are. Oh, my kind of people suffer. Oh, my kind of friend, please. Be my kind of people indeed.
According to Shannon, because we've never met,
Yes.
which I feel like we have.
I know.
We already feel like we're friends, which I love. That's my other favorite thing
Yeah.
about this series.
I know.
So, Shannon, who's our friend, who's about to be our boarder, said
Right.
you are currently battling 2 different types of breast cancer.
Yes. Well, I mean, technically speaking, I'm cancer-free, and I just concluded my treatment.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
So can you
On
tell us a little bit
Wednesday.
about your journey? How old were you? What made you even get
Yeah.
checked?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the...
So, let's see. This is 2021,
Mhm.
2019.
Okay.
So I am on regular mammogram schedule. I was exceptionally large-breasted, and a lot of times large-breasted women, fibrous tissue, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. And so kind of regularly on exams, I don't want to say regularly and overstate it, but, something would be felt, just like I said, fibrous tissue, nothing.
Did you have a family history of breast cancer or anything?
So there is a family history of breast cancer, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer,
Okay.
a bunch of cancers.
Stuff.
Yeah, stuff.
So at what age did your doctor say, okay, we need to start regularly checking you?
I think it had more to do with the fibrous tissue
Okay.
thing, and we
Yeah.
started doing, and being large-breasted.
Yep.
I feel like I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
The first time I had one.
Okay.
I went for a mammogram, and they decided they wanted to do genetic testing as well.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, cool, great. So I go into the genetic counselor. She's asking lots of questions. I was like, you know what, let's call my mom.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so we call my mom, and there's like, the ladies on the computer at the same time, like click, 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 click.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking is just like a couple branches turns into like, kudzu. And so I was like, what the heck
Yeah.
is happening? So anyway, and then you see the counselor's face like gradually change to like poker face, poker face. I was like, holy cow. Now my brother, right above me, 4 years older than me, is a stage 4 colon cancer survivor. And he was genetically tested, and he was negative for the BRCA gene or whatever. And so we do the genetic testing. So the mammogram comes back, everything's clear. This is in September, October of 2019.
Okay.
Mammogram's completely clear, everything's good. Do the ultrasound stuff, and the genetic testing comes back, everything's negative.
So you did the clear mammogram, then they did an ultrasound as well?
Yeah, they did
Okay.
an ultrasound as well. That was clear. I think there's an area here, or there was an area here on my right breast that has been an area that they've been watching for a long time.
Yep.
And so each time it comes up, just as an additional precaution, they end up doing the ultrasound. And I think maybe there might be something there about like being large breasted too. I'm
Okay.
not totally sure.
Sure.
But the whole thing just was like very routine.
Okay.
Like no big deal, we're just gonna do this thing.
Yeah.
They're really good at calming you through the process.
Oh yeah, totally
Yeah,
routine.
they
no
are
big
like
deal.
soothsayers.
Yeah.
They're really good at that. And so, and to their credit, I'm
Yeah.
grateful. So it went through the whole thing, and everything was clear as it had been previously. I wasn't alarmed. I didn't have any concerns.
Right.
I just am blessed with a phenomenal doctor. I would feel better if we did these things. Okay, fine. We're
Yeah,
gonna
I
go.
love the throne.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
they suggested it to you. You didn't have to be your own advocate and say, you know what, I feel better if we could take it to the next level.
Because
Yeah.
we've heard those stories,
Yeah.
and I've seen those stories where you're going, no, something's not right, and the doctor's going, So if you have a doctor that's
Yeah.
going, let's
That's
take an extra
wonderful.
precaution,
Yeah.
Love it.
what a blessing.
Yeah, I have been phenomenally blessed with all of my doctors, even pre-cancer. I'm phenomenally blessed with doctors that listen, and doctors that say, listen, we'll do what you want to do. I would feel a little better if we did this. All right, well, we're going with
Right.
that. Like,
Love it. That's
let's go
great.
with that. And so, I really don't think it's anything, and I don't want to alarm you. I'd just feel better if we looked into it. All right,
Okay.
great. Well, that's what we're going with. We're going with it's nothing until we're told it's something, and if it's something, we deal with it. you
So
know?
at what point then, so that's 2019.
2019. So literally, September of 2020.
Okay.
So not quite a year. I woke up one morning. I tend to sleep on my stomach, and I pushed myself up, and I was like, "Ow!" And I felt, and it was literally like somebody just like stuck a bouncy ball, like 12 o'clock, on my breast. And I was like, "What the heck?" And so I go in the bathroom and look, because I'm thinking.
And it hurt?
Yeah, it hurt.
Okay.
And so, and it was a perfect sphere.
Mhm.
And I was like, I feel like I was moving a bunch of stuff at work, and I thought, did I hit myself? Did I mean,
Strain something, because there's
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
got muscles kind
Yeah.
of up and around here. So,
and I was like, did I? And there's no like tissue trauma or anything. And what it really felt like is when you hit your leg on the corner of a table,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
it
And the
hurts
knot.
that bad.
Yeah.
And that knot, that density
Sure.
of that knot, and then when you press it, it hurts. That's almost exactly what it felt like.
Okay.
And I thought, did I like a box?
How did I
whatever?
do this?
So I was like, okay. And I tend to downplay things, and I tend to be like,
yeah.
it'll be fine. And for whatever reason, I was like, all right, well, here's the deal. If it is a trauma, a tissue trauma, then it should be getting better in 5 days.
So you gave yourself a window.
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
And I was like, if it's not getting better in 5 days, it doesn't have to be gone, but it should be getting better.
Sure.
If it's not getting better in 5 days, I'm making a commitment to myself. I'm calling a doctor.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to be alarmist. I don't want to be that person. You all want to be in good graces, and
Yeah.
And so it's like, so 5 days came and went, and it is no different. And I was like, all right, I told myself I was going to call. Surprisingly enough, I called.
Good for
which is
you, because I
surprise-
wouldn't have.
Yeah,
I would have
it's
given myself like 5 more.
I know, it's so surprising to me, genuinely.
Awesome.
And so they got me in, and life at that point in time, was very rough. I was in the process of a divorce, and a lot of things happening. My daughter at that point in time had tried to commit suicide and was in a program down in Charlotte, a residential program. And my son, it's the start of his senior year. We're in the throes of COVID. He's dedicated his life to lacrosse and trying to get recruited,
wow.
and it has thrown that into
Sure.
a tailspin. We're in a rental house that looked good because they put paint and new carpet in, and it was a nightmare. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. And there was so much life,
Yeah.
just so much life.
Yeah.
And what it required of me was I had to be at the top of my game, which is fine. I can do that. What I can't do is something like this on top of it. So anyway, I remember going into my gynecologist's office and sitting there, and I'm normally calm, cool, collected, no big deal. And at least that's who I try to be.
That's who you feel.
Yeah, on the inside, I
Yeah.
might be losing it, but I'm like, I want to be this calm, cool,
Sure.
collected person,
Yeah.
So it's like, just cool your jets, kid. And I go in there, and she comes in, and as soon as she comes in, I lose it. I just lose it.
Well, you can only be strong for so long.
Yeah.
Right? All of us.
Yeah. So I lose it, and she's like she's so wonderful and empathetic and just phenomenal physician and amazing human.
Awesome.
And I'm just losing it. And I was like, I've got this going on, this going on, this going on, this going on. I can't have cancer.
Right.
And like, that's just not me to take a bump and turn it
And
into
go there.
cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's just,
Sure.
and honestly, again, at that, it just is an indication of kind of where I was at in life.
Your cup was full.
Yeah.
This put it over.
It was,
Yeah.
no, my cup was overflowing, and I'm doing everything I can
You're
to,
drowning.
Keep the lid on.
Yeah.
Kind of keep it
No,
going.
I get it.
like, I'm trying to make that Bounty commercial look real good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah.
here's some, let me get you on higher ground.
Yeah.
So I'm doing everything to put everybody around me on higher ground, and meanwhile the water level is just like this. And so she is like, Jenny, we're gonna take care of this. Da 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 da. She's like, okay, I feel what you feel, and da 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 da. Like, her job then, and just tremendous amount of respect for her, was to calm the situation.
Yeah.
And she didn't say anything falsely pacifying, and she didn't say anything even mildly alarmist. You're here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. We're gonna go get it checked out.
So what's the next step? A biopsy?
Yeah, so the next step is a mammogram. They see it on the mammogram, they do the ultrasound, they schedule the biopsy. In the biopsy, they take several tissue samples, and they're supposed to take like 5, and they're doing a great job calming me and stuff. And it just, by the time I got to the biopsy, I was like, this is nothing. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I got
yeah, this is not cancer.
Yeah.
You got yourself all worked up.
Right.
You're good. And the doctor at one point says, I'm just going to take a few extra samples while I'm in here.
You didn't even need to say that out loud. You could have just done it. Is what I'm thinking.
Well, but I think it's because they said, as I recall, they gave a number.
Okay.
And also, I think that's a sub-communication between the doctor and the nurse.
Gotcha.
Do
Like,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of a
Yeah.
subliminal, because the
code word for this could totally be something. Let's
And
need to
or
be-
like, I'm deviating from our normal procedure.
Yes.
Right.
This is what I need you to do.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because there's, I
Well,
would
they've got their routine.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that she then needs to do something, like their team,
Sure.
because there's all these things happening. And so I would imagine that's his communication to her.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
also, if I'm counting and if I'm kind of, because a lot of people,
Yeah.
I'm not
that was
that way.
4. Are we done yet?
Yeah, I'm going to be like, hey, my mouth is this wide open like a fish.
Sure.
You want to hook me and lead me? I'm going to let you.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not a thinking person. It's that whatevs. I'm eventually going to find out, what
Right.
what
Do
you're
what you
holding
need
in-
to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to eventually find out what you're holding in your hand.
Yeah.
And why upset myself in this stage of the game. And so I was laying there and I go, I'm pretty sure that's not how this works.
Yeah. Something's not right. Yeah.
I was like, I'm pretty sure this isn't like a BOGO situation.
Mhm.
Like, we're already in here. Let's just get a
You
few
just-
more.
Yeah.
Just a few.
I'm one of those that stays engaged and like looks
Yeah.
and like that's my way of coping
Sure.
is to try and stay present as much as possible. And he even commented, he's like, I don't think I've ever had anybody be this engaged and like watching and be like, whoa, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
I mean,
just, whatever. Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
there's
I see what
me
you're
going,
saying.
do you mind if we video record this?
Yeah, I'm totally that girl.
Yeah.
I'm totally that
Oh,
girl.
yeah.
So anyway, the October 21st was the day, and my daughter was getting discharged from the facility, and so she's 18, and so getting discharged from a mental health facility looks like picking her up at school.
Yeah.
Like when
Right.
she's like 6.
Yeah.
You come in the car rider line, she hops in the car. Hey babe, how was your day at school?
Yeah.
And you drive off.
Yeah.
And so hop in the car rider line. Hadn't seen her in 5.5 weeks. We've communicated,
Mhm.
but COVID and everything, can't see each
Yeah.
other. And haven't seen her in 5.5 weeks. She hops in the car, and we're about a quarter mile down the road, not far at all. And the phone rings. It's like some movie. Like, this just doesn't happen in real life.
Right.
And what's interesting is one of the people that I saw one of your candid conversations with, I think it was the woman that was in the barn. I don't remember, Lori or
Laura.
Laura. Okay. So what's interesting is she and I must have gotten the call from the same person.
Right.
Because what the person says is, this is at, I had all my stuff done at Gateway in Concord. And so what the person says is, I'm sure you know what I'm about to say.
Right.
Something like that.
Don't start the conversation like that. Can we? Don't start the conversation like that.
I was like, so literally verbatim what she
Yeah.
said was exactly what, and I'm kind of thinking like, why would I
Why
know
would
that?
I know that? Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
like-
I'm thinking I'm good.
It's like it's scripted.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
my thing is that also, put yourself in their position. What's the segue to that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the segue
I'm
is.
calling with your results. Unfortunately, they weren't what we were hoping for.
You know what,
You
Jim?
got the big
That's
C.
exactly.
I mean, should I
Yeah.
just apply for the job?
Yes,
Write
and
the
they're
script.
very
I will, because they you're right. I
they're
mean,
very compassionate,
They-
Right.
and they're very.
And it's a hard job. I'm not trying to
Yeah,
judge. Don't
no.
get me wrong. But if I
Right.
was getting that call, that is not how I would want it to go.
And my thing too is that I think everybody's a little different. I'm clearly like you. I would like that to go a little differently,
Yeah.
and the conversation to be a little more diagnostic.
Yeah.
And so she said the exact same thing. Like, where are you? It's like, well, I'm in the car, and you immediately know, like,
I'm driving.
yeah, negative results don't go like that,
Yeah.
right? So you're immediately sitting there going like, is this my life? Is this happening right now? It's
Yeah.
like, calm your brain, girl. Calm your brain. This is not happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting there looking at my daughter. I just picked the kid up.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no, no. And I said, I just picked my daughter up. And she goes, oh, how old is she? I'm like, great. And
Can I
said,
say this in front of a 6-year-old? No, she's 18. Go ahead and tell me what I've got.
literally, I said, she's 19. And she goes, oh, okay. And she says, so I think you know what I'm about to say, or I think you know whatever that phrase is.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember what was said after that, because literally I am like a hamster on a wheel on overdrive, trying to figure out how do I get myself out of this situation. Because my daughter is exceptionally in tune to me, like almost psychic. It's unfortunate a lot of the times. And also, I don't have the best poker face. So, like, you know, transparency is my game.
Is she next to you, or is she in the back seat?
No, she's next to me. You know, and literally, like I said, I just picked her up a quarter mile ago.
Right.
Like, why are you taking a phone call? What phone call is happening right now?
It's so important
that you just picked me up from 5.5 weeks, you know, of being suicidal. And obviously, it's going to have to be a really important call. And so I just say to her, she's talking, and I just say, yeah, that's great. We can talk tomorrow. That'd be good. And she's just like, oh, okay. And she's like, I'll call you tomorrow. She goes to say something else. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. I know, right? That's how I felt too.
Yeah.
So,
I too.
so I hang up the phone, and I'm like, everything has to be on point.
Yeah.
My breathing, my body, my face, like everything has
Plus
to
you're
be.
driving.
Yeah.
that too.
And it's like right there in downtown Charlotte and stuff. And I'm just like, and so she was like, thankfully, anyway, she's just like, who was that? And I suck at lying.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And so I was like, oh, it was calling about a test that I just had. And she was just like, oh, what was that? And I was like, oh, everything was fine. What were you saying again? Like, it's like,
how was the last 5 weeks?
Don't pay attention to what's in the right hand, left hand, left hand, left hand. And so thankfully, I know, right?
Rude.
Thankfully, she was in a space that she wasn't able to emotionally take anything in outside of those bounds.
Yeah.
So thankfully, and then it's a 45-minute drive home, and I'm thinking, stay present, stay present, stay present. You will have cancer tomorrow.
Yep.
You can deal with this tomorrow. Right now, there is nothing more important than what's happening in this car. You know, nothing more important. And at the same time, you're thinking like, holy crap, I'm going to have to tell her this like soon.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything starts spinning, you know. So anyway, I took a little bit of time. I tried to take time to tell my family and friends, because I knew once I told my kids at the time were 17, 19, and 22.
Okay.
And so we've been through a lot together, and I am their emotionally available parent. I know, right? So we are jiving. We are just
so
totally,
loud today.
we are vibing today. And so telling them, you know, that's traumatic when you hear that about your parent no matter what. But telling them that and having you being the one that's emotionally available is a different level.
Yeah.
You know? And not to place value at all. That's traumatic for your kids no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
And in a lot of regards, like it's, you know, you think like, oh gosh, your kids are young, that's terrible. And it is. And I think sometimes we forget that for the older kids, it's traumatic in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
You know? And so I told my kids, I also wanted more information before I told them.
Sure.
Because I didn't want it to be fraught with, I don't know, we're going to do a test for that. I don't know, we're going to do a test for that. I really wanted to like hand them the whole thing.
Here are all
These
the
are the
answers to your
And
questions.
this is the prognosis, and this is the
What we're
plan
doing.
of what we're going to
Yeah,
do.
for sure.
Yeah. So I waited,
treatment.
let's see, I didn't tell them until, so I had more tests and more biopsies, and I didn't tell them until like end of the first week of November.
Okay.
So I wanted time to tell all my family and friends that I really wanted to make sure like knew, because also I didn't want, once I told them, I wanted to make sure I was a sitting duck and available, and I didn't want to be on the phone or texting or anything like that. I didn't want to be unavailable. You don't know when that moment happens where they need to come down, and you know, when something happens and they need to say something. So anyway, so the diagnosis came back as invasive mammary carcinoma with metaplastic carcinoma.
Okay.
Is triple negative breast cancer.
Okay.
They looked back at the mammogram from the year prior, and there was nothing there.
Okay, so from
Wow.
1 year this happened.
Yeah, and it was 3 centimeters, I think.
And
Two-
see, that's where I have a huge problem with these insurance companies that say, no, we do them every other year. Now
That's what mine
we've
has done.
determined
Yeah.
it's unnecessary to do them every year.
yeah,
Have we?
yeah,
Who's we?
yeah. So
No.
it was, and again, I'd had multiple mammograms,
Right.
and I had the genetic testing the year prior.
And ultrasounds.
And
too.
the
Yeah,
ultrasounds,
yeah.
like I had, and the ultrasounds were multiple times.
Right.
So I had the mammogram. I'd had probably at least 5 mammograms and 3 ultrasounds prior to my diagnosis. And then the most recent one, like I said, was almost a year to the date. And so,
So this is November now, 2020.
20. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. At that point, the plan is, so I go to Concord, LCI Concord, and the breast surgeon there is phenomenal. The oncologist there is phenomenal. And I go to see the breast surgeon first. And, what's amazing about that process is, at least my experience, and my experience led me to believe that wasn't exclusive to me, that this is just how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong. It could be, so my breast cancer represents less than 1% of all breast cancers, the one in my left breast.
Okay.
Which
Which one?
the invasive mammary carcinoma with metaplastic carcinoma being a triple negative.
Okay.
Like, I don't know which part of it. I think it's the collection.
Okay.
Like, everybody,
This combination is less than 1% of what most women get.
of all breast cancers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so,
Lucky you.
yeah, and it's very aggressive, very fast growing, obviously.
Obviously,
yeah.
yeah.
In less than a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my brother, who's the colon cancer survivor, is also an OBGYN,
Okay.
who was an OBGYN for 10 or 15 years, and switched his specialty to radiology. So he's a women's imaging specialist.
Oh, wow.
And so he knows a lot about all of
Sure.
this from every different aspect. Being a colon cancer, a stage 4 colon cancer survivor, being a physician, whatever. So I call my brother, and we just, we're straight communicators.
Yeah.
Like, don't pull any punches.
Right.
And there was kind of silence. So that was an indicator. and,
Yeah. When he's got nothing.
and he's like, wow. And so,
So he reads breast cancer ultrasound or radiographs and ultrasounds. That's his specialty now.
yeah. So he's
That's convenient.
he's mammo fellowship trained. So he doesn't just do breast cancer, but he does a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
breasts,
Right.
but he does a lot with that.
Okay.
And he does. He's an impressive cat, and also super humble. If you were to meet him, he wouldn't. But that's not the point. I love them. I love them. You're my hype girl.
Yeah. They keep the tears away. Believe me, there's a reason they're here.
So anyway, so when I went to my breast surgeon, she's like, I've already talked to your oncologist. We've already met about your case. Your case has already been presented to the tumor board.
Wow.
We've already, so like, everybody's talked.
Right.
And then they give you, like, hey, listen, we're not just, there's no one person making this decision.
Sure.
Nobody's sitting back being the gatekeeper on your treatment,
Mm-hmm.
at least my experience. And I don't know, I got the impression that that's just how this is done these days. But after watching a couple of the other videos, I'm like, wow, I wonder, like, I immediately had comfort. And they said, you can go for a second opinion, and.
Did they give you the option to say, well, I would like a double mastectomy, or I would like a lumpectomy?
Yeah.
Did they?
So what happened was, so I go to the breast surgeon, and then I go to the oncologist. And when I go to the oncologist, she was phenomenal at LCI Concord. I go to the oncologist, and she's spelling everything out. This is what we're going to do, da 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 da. She says, that being said, I'm an excellent oncologist. Your cancer makes me a little nervous. Evidently the metaplastic piece is a bad actor, and it's the piece that says, I don't have to play by the rules. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, great.
So it's those days you take your toddler to a public environment and going, hopefully it works out well.
Yeah.
Some days it does. Other days it's a train wreck before you even get out of the car.
Totally how
And-
you want to live your life.
Yeah, and that's evidently what the metaplastic piece is. And so, thankfully for me, it was an agreeable toddler. But so she said, this just makes me nervous. And there's a clinical trial happening down at LCI Charlotte, an immunotherapy clinical trial. And I feel like that's your best opportunity at the best outcome.
Okay.
I've gone ahead and applied for you to be entered into the clinical trial. They've accepted you I've presented
Wow.
your case. They've accepted you into the clinical trial. They would like one more test, and it's just a formality, but the choice is yours.
Okay.
I understand it's a commute. It's a year-long clinical trial. It's actually a 10-year clinical trial, but it's a year-long of immunotherapy.
Sure.
And so I immediately fallen in love with her, and I'm like, like, I love you.
Yeah.
And so she said, I am a phenomenal oncologist. And she said, I would feel better if you did this.
So you did it.
I did it.
So what all was done? You did that.
Yeah, so I did that. So I started, my first chemo was actually November 23rd. At the time when I met with the oncologist, she said, you know, we've got some time. We caught it early. We've got some time. And I'm thinking like, okay, cool. Like time being like years or something, you know, like,
Right.
like, and she said, if you would come to me a couple of months later, this would be an emergency situation.
Okay.
And so that's my word of caution to everyone. I had a clear mammogram, almost a year to the date. I felt something. Thankfully, I acted upon it. Genuinely can't tell you why I did.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my oncologist is like, we've got time. And our sense of time and that time, because what the next stage is inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bad gig.
And if you had waited a few more months, according to the doctor, we would have been in a very different situation.
An emergency
So
situation.
don't wait.
Yeah, is what she said.
Stop
yeah,
putting it off.
Don't wait.
Yeah. We're so good at that, though, aren't we?
Yeah, don't wait.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we do it out of fear.
Oh, sure.
yes.
You know, like sticking your head in the sand.
Yes.
This is not the time in my life for this now. I'm going to tell you, I get it. Like, I totally get it.
Sure.
I could, the Christmas list of why this was a bad time
Yep.
doesn't end in my life.
Yeah.
As far as cancer is concerned. And at the same time, you're underestimating that it may be the perfect time for it. You know,
Right. And your body doesn't care about
yeah.
your list.
Yeah, your body doesn't care
Especially
about
not
your list.
cancer. It's on a mission.
Yeah.
So it's up to you.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, you may think you have time. You may think, well, I just felt it. I'm going to wait a couple months. I'm going to wait till after Christmas. I'm going to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that our concept of what a couple months can do is greatly skewed.
Yeah.
Is greatly skewed. And you just don't know what you're dealing with.
Right.
You know?
You need to find out.
Yeah, you don't know what you're dealing with. And one of the stories I heard, which is an exceptionally relevant point, is you can't afford to go get checked out if you don't have health insurance, because you can't afford for it to be a pre-existing condition.
Correct.
You know, I'm
That
going
was
to tell
Jody's
you.
issue.
Yeah.
Before
and that's
the
Jody's,
Affordable Care Act.
Healthcare.
Yeah.
She could not have the pre-existing condition.
Yeah, and when I heard her story, the other thing too is that my cancer, and I've asked every doctor about this, is my cancer is typical of an impoverished, overweight African American woman.
Okay.
And when I look at that, we really, really, really need to start talking about poverty and cancer.
Mm-hmm.
We really, really need to start talking about healthcare and poverty. We really, really need to quit band-aiding this thing,
Mm-hmm.
because it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable by virtue of something that is completely out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
That I was able to get health care by virtue. I was able to go be a part of a clinical trial
Mm-hmm.
because I had a car.
Yeah.
I was able to get this kind of health care because I had a job that had these good benefits. I was able to go on FMLA 100% and solely focus on my cancer and my family and all the long list of things that only had my name on it.
Yeah.
You know, because of my financial position. Now, mind you, what does my financial position look like? What did it look like at that point in time? It was ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going through a divorce. Literally, if cancer didn't come and casseroles start coming, and donations and meal cards and things like that, I'm not real sure how we would have made it through that month.
Sure.
You know, like I had friends and family to ask for help, but we had already been asking for help for so long that I was like, okay, it's finally time. This just looked like what it is.
Yeah.
And I'll go get food stamps and I'll go do it. You know, whatever it is, what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing too about that we don't really talk about is not only that impoverished person doesn't have that opportunity to help themselves, but neither does their community
Right.
have the opportunity to support them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what saved me, financially, I was looking very much like that person.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that, and I say except for the fact that these are game changers.
Yeah.
Having a full-time job with good benefits, with, I was able to take advantage of all of these things, and then I have friends who are in a position, and I know a lot of people who are in a position to give a gift card, make a meal, do
Yeah.
these things, and that's just not the reality of of an impoverished community. Now, are they generous? Yes.
Yeah.
Exceptionally generous. Do they take care of one another? Yes. I mean, it functions exactly the same way any relationship does.
Right.
But it is not okay that her treatment and outcome be very different than mine by virtue of what she's able to execute.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is that there are so many programs out there that literally take care of that, and people just need to inform themselves. Like,
They don't know.
You don't need to do, like, if you've got some money in your budget and you want to make an extra donation somewhere, try to have those dollars be in your community.
Yep.
There's
Well, that's
so
Go Gen Go.
Yeah.
Right? That is why we partnered with them, because they are focused on the women in our community that are going through this, that need meals, that need rides to treatment, that need, help with certain medications right here in Charlotte. So whether it's $1 or $5 or $10, it's pooled and it's distributed to help.
Yeah.
That's what's needed.
Yeah.
Because then you can go to them and say, here's what I need, and they can go, great, we can help you with that.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God for organizations like this. And I've known
Agreed.
about them for going on 5 years. I had a friend that went through breast cancer, and we did a Go Gen Go run, and I went, oh, okay, this is great. We're all in pink, and we're supporting Kirsten, and yay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think about them when we started this whole breast cancer awareness thing.
Yeah.
But I had another friend reach out and say, hey, I work for a company that will donate. So if I volunteer for 8 hours, they will donate from my time for that. If you're a nonprofit. I went, I'm not a nonprofit, I'm a horse farm. I know a nonprofit. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I reached out and went, I want to partner with you guys. What do we need to do? We're doing a trail ride. Can we do a ride, Jen ride? And she went, Jen would have loved that. Yes, we're in.
Oh, that's great.
So that's money to them. That I mean, there's ways to do it. You just have to get resourceful.
Yeah.
And then a company like that can go, you need help? I've got you.
Yeah. I heard about Go Gen Go. We were up at a tournament up in Greensboro or something, and I was amidst my treatments. I don't exactly remember when. I was in chemo, and I get out. I get out of the elevator. I'm going out of the elevator, and a woman walks by me, like in her cute little fitness gear. She's like cute little fitness person,
right?
And she's wearing just like a black running jacket. And on her panel here in pink, it says Go Gen Go.
Yep.
Well, my name's Jenny, so it drew my attention.
Sure.
And it was pink, and I'm like, I'll talk to anybody.
Sure.
And I'm just like, just let it go. Lady's trying to go back to her room, cup of coffee in hand. COVID, so nothing's happening.
We don't talk.
The continental breakfast thing is not happening. She had to go out to get her coffee, bless her heart. And I'm like,
I'm right there.
and so I'm like, no, I'm gonna turn, and I turn around, like literally, it's like again a movie scene. The elevator door is starting to close. I'm like, excuse me, and I was like, I noticed on your lapel, what does that mean? And she says, my friend is a girlfriend of mine. Her name's Jen. She passed away from breast cancer.
Oh,
it's
so
an organization.
She knew Jen.
She's like, it's an organization. I don't know what her name is.
Sure.
Maybe if she sees this, she'll be like, that was me.
Yeah, hi.
I would love to meet her.
How funny if that's Susan.
Yeah, I would love to meet her, but she's like, my girlfriend and Jen, and just very heartfelt.
Yeah.
It was very heartfelt.
Sure.
Her elevator pitch was great, by the way. Like, it was awesome. I was like, you got this, girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And I don't genuinely remember what I said in response. I think I said that I was that I had breast cancer. I'm in treatment now, and my name's Jenny. I genuinely don't remember.
Right.
I vividly remember everything about her part of our interaction. I don't really remember the rest of it. And then it's like, have a good day. And maybe I didn't say anything at all. I genuinely don't remember what I said.
Yeah.
But she was wonderful. And I feel like it was Greensboro, so if that's you, find me.
Yeah.
Let's see. So part of the clinical trial, you get the placebo or drug called atezolizumab.
Okay.
And it boosts your immune system to try and have, I'm going to paraphrase, so if there's any doctors or people listening and like, you totally got that wrong, I'm sorry.
Google it.
Yeah. Do a little research. So it boosts your immune system, puts it into overdrive so that your immune system is now recognizing these cells as being problematic. And so it's fighting the cancer on top of it, because what happens is our immune system is geared to be this like perfect doctor.
Sure.
Except for these cells happen and it's like, oh, you're no problem, we're friends. And so it doesn't really kick into gear that way, and is my understanding and my paraphrase.
Sure.
So part of the clinical trial is my chemo regimen was flip-flopped. So I had 6 months of chemo, so you have 12 weeks with this chemo regimen and 12 weeks with this chemo regimen. Well, most people, as I understand it, most people start with adriamycin.
Okay.
And everybody calls it the Red Devil, Red Death, like...
Sounds pleasant.
I know. I'm like, it's amazing when people are you're not gonna get that Red Death stuff, are you? And I'm like, that's exactly what I want.
I'm gonna get that, or I'm gonna die from breast cancer. So
I'm like, actually, I am. That doesn't sound very pleasant.
Thanks for the encouragement.
Yeah. So mine was flip flop, and then so I had Taxol, which is a chemo drug, and then carboplatin. They added to my regimen because evidently carboplatin helps break down and kind of assault the cells like on a DNA level, I guess.
Okay.
And so it makes them, I guess, more susceptible to the chemo. And so I had Taxol and carboplatin every week for 12 weeks. And then I had adriamycin and Cytoxan every 3 weeks for 12 weeks. And then in there, you have some trouble with your white blood cell count, and so they put you on Neupogen shots. And so the whole month of February, I was on Neupogen shots that you give yourself, and it helps boost that. And then once adriamycin started, you get a Neulasta shot, and I could have those words mixed because they similar effect and similar name, but I'm pretty sure it's the Neulasta shot. So then you do the adriamycin and Cytoxan piece, and you get a Neulasta shot. I think it was like a day or two after. I feel like it was the next day after I got chemo.
And you're doing the clinical trial all during this time?
Yeah, and so the clinical trial is the whole time too. Actually, the clinical trial, you're getting that every 3 weeks.
And you haven't had any surgery at this point?
Correct. I haven't had any surgery or anything at this point. And as a note about the Neulasta shot, one shot, like I'm not talking about administering the shot, I'm not talking about the hospital, anything, okay? One Neulasta shot, which is maybe the size of my pinky, not even, is like $17,000.
And you had to have how many of those?
I had 4 of them. The 1 day of chemo was like $18,000.
There's a component of this, which we all know what breast cancer is. We all know how devastating it is. We all know how life-threatening it is. But the financial burden of this disease and what it takes to beat it is not something that a lot of people talk about. So I'm so glad that you brought up just the per dose.
So my thing when we started this, I knew I was in a financially tight spot. I knew that, living a long life, I'm going to have higher expenses in relation to all of these things. And so my goal in it all, and this might sound terrible, but I'm going to be honest, my goal in it all was that I would fundraise to be at 0.
Yeah.
Do you know? And
why does that sound terrible?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, to some people I could see that as sounding very opportunist and trying to capitalize on something. And that wasn't at all the thought process.
That's that self-hating, we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. That's the mean girl.
Because that's a goal that we all should have, to not be in debt, to not let this attack our bodies and our finances, and then inadvertently the rest of our lives.
Well, and the other thing too is that at this point in my life, I'd experienced so much cancer from a front row seat.
Yeah, through your family.
We lost my niece to leukemia, a recurrence of leukemia at 20. My dearest friend at the time, her son was diagnosed with rhabdomyosarcoma in his face 3 days before his 14th birthday. I had a front row seat to a lot of cancer at this point. Yeah. And my brother being stage 4 colon cancer survivor. Like, I'd had a front row seat to a lot of cancer. And my thing is, what I wholly embraced is that it is very hard on the people that love us.
Oh, yeah.
It is exceptionally hard to feel helpless, to feel like you can't do anything. I absolutely understand and know what it is to wish that it was you. I know what it is to just feel so helpless. And if you love your friends and family, what I'm going to say to you is this: if you get a diagnosis like this or any other kind, like, there's other diagnoses that are very scary, that are lifelong diagnoses.
Yeah.
You know, I get to sit here 10 months later and say I'm cancer free. Meanwhile, you know, a girlfriend of mine that has MS, you know, that's not how that story goes.
That's not.
Right.
You know, and so the thing about it is that, you know, what I would say is, do you want to be a good friend? And if the answer is yes, I want to be a good friend, then the answer is you need to make room for people to do things.
Yeah.
And you need to make room for them to do things you don't even need.
Yep.
Now, you know, what does that look like? You know, put a girlfriend in charge of your meal train. You know, let them take you to rides that you can drive yourself. You know, they need a coping mechanism. They can't do cancer. My experiences in this whole thing, and my experiences went exceptionally well as far as treatment, I think it's harder to watch.
Yeah. I don't know if
Thank
it's
you for sharing
harder,
that.
but
Thank you
yeah,
for sharing that, because I think it's true. I
Yeah.
mean, if you are the friend and your friend has been diagnosed,
you're helpless.
you want to say the right thing, you want to do the right thing, but then you haven't been through that experience before, thankfully, but yet you're going through it now.
Yeah.
What do you do? So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Also sharing it from your perspective.
Yeah.
Being the one that has been through cancer and come out at the other side.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
And, you know, and sharing it from that perspective too, because we do want to be strongly independent. I can do this.
Yeah.
I've got this. I don't need anything, but we do.
And I think that's the thing is, like, the other thing is everybody has to do this their own way, and they have to honor themselves in this process. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I'm fine, I got it, I'm fine.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's how we keep ourselves afloat. Okay, I get it. You know, you're doing your best to keep yourself okay in this. And also, I'm still going to challenge you and say, do you want to be a good friend?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think any of us don't want to be a good friend, don't want to be a good sibling, don't want to be, you know, I don't think any of us don't want to help the people that love us through this.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, it is exceptionally hard for us to see the hurt in your eyes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so a lot of times that brave face is because we don't want to make this any harder on you.
Right.
You know, like, I you know, and it's because we love you so much. And especially, like I said, you know, I know what it's like to sit at my desk and I saw on Facebook some random acquaintance has cancer. And, you know, the next thing you know, you're sitting at your desk and you just can't focus that day and you're wondering how they're doing. And it's like, well, I'm not going to disrupt them. I don't know them well enough to call them and be like, hey, you know, let me just get the in on your news. Like, it's
So
just,
how would you feel if we've met once and then I reach out to you a month from now, hey, I'm just checking on you. Would you be offended by that?
No, I mean, I think everybody's different. I'm not offended by that.
Right, but
someone
else might be.
Someone else might be.
Okay.
And I think the other thing too about it, like for me, what I did is, because my experiences in watching cancer were so intimate, I kept asking myself, how would I help that person? Like, how would I help me?
Yeah.
If I could go back and help me, what would I do? And a lot of it is, you know, people do caring bridges and people write posts or whatever. And I started with a caring bridge. My brother did a caring bridge. It was great.
What's a caring bridge?
Caring Bridge is a free website that people with chronic conditions or chronic issues, you can go and set up your Caring Bridge, and then people can just like, you can do journal updates, post pictures, you can post needs, they can, all sorts of stuff, you know.
So you can put on there how you're doing, what you need, and I can read that and be like, oh, I can help there.
Correct.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I found what I learned in the process of it is Caring Bridge, people don't like reading anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true.
Well, it's that attention span.
Right.
Yeah.
I want
need to know
quick
right now.
information right now.
Can you tell me in 2 seconds?
And for me, I like writing. I like the written word. But also what was happening is that I was trying to write this perfect essay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was taking more time and more energy as the time went on. And so what I realized is that really the best thing to do, I think, and I'm an open book, I'll talk to you about anything.
Same.
You know, so not everybody's this way, but I think the best thing to do and the easiest thing for you in the situation is just do a recording.
Yep.
Just do a live. Like I say go live. The reason being is that you don't have to do retakes. You don't have to make it perfect. It is as you are.
Yep.
And in doing a live, anybody that knows me, even just a mild acquaintance, it's going to be like us sitting like this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to stutter. I'm going to forget stuff. I might cuss.
Yeah.
And
but that's okay because that's you. So
you know,
we have a very good friend that goes live quite often.
Yeah.
She's absolutely bonkers. She's totally batshit, and she is one of my favorite people in
Yeah.
the world. She will entertain your butt right off.
hilarious.
I love that. There's no filter.
Yeah.
There's no premeditation. It's
Yeah.
just
This
this
is
is
me.
who I am.
Yeah.
Take
And
care of it.
and I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
You know, whereas when we're in person, I could tell you exactly the same thing. I could tell you how I was crying. I could tell you how upset I was. I could tell you all of that, but I'm probably not going to access that emotion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
And sometimes, in order to make people feel okay, it is comforting to them to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing too is it's comforting because a lot of times it's not as bad as what we think it is in our head. Like I literally thought I was going to be curled up in the fetal position for 6 months.
Right.
Literally. You know, I thought the extent of my life was going to be my bed with a trash can next to it. Maybe I'd be able to graduate to the toilet. I thought I was going to look like I came out of some concentration camp. I just had this like
a picture that your mind made worse than it actually was, probably.
Yeah, and everybody's different. I mean, it's just like pregnancy. Like the range is so broad.
Yeah.
You know, the diagnosis doesn't dictate the experience. The treatment plan doesn't dictate the experience. And although I had a very severe diagnosis, a very, like a bad diagnosis, I know people who have had the ideal diagnosis, and people, please be careful what you say, because when I was diagnosed with breast cancer and started telling people, they were like, so often, and I've heard this from so many women, that they're like, oh, they've done so much with breast cancer now. You know, my friend, they just did this and they're totally fine. Oh, they've done so much with breast cancer. It's like, awesome. Want to trade?
To be reassuring, but it's like, that's not helpful.
Yeah, it's like, and then I just go, yeah, that's not the one I have.
Yeah.
And I just would leave it at that. Not trying to one up or anything, just like, okay, I need you to stop talking.
Right.
You know, like that's my boundary right there. Like,
good.
I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I just need you to stop.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to walk away from this helping you feel better. I need you to quit talking.
Yes.
So anyway, so let's see. So my last chemo was May 10th, and then I was set up. So repeat scans in the end of May, and my first surgery was June 10th.
And what was the surgery?
So the surgery was a triple lumpectomy. So originally, when I went down to LCI Maine, phenomenal team down there too. Oh my gosh, my oncologist, I didn't think I could love as much as I loved the first one. They're amazing.
And this was the original plan. The triple lumpectomy was what the first doctor said, okay, here's what we're going to do.
So with my breast cancer, there is no difference in the rate of recurrence for a complete mastectomy versus a lumpectomy.
Okay.
That there's just as much, there's no difference.
Okay.
And so if there's no difference, the complete mastectomy is a more major surgery.
Yeah.
And with a longer recovery time.
Yeah.
Where they do see a slight difference is in the recovery time and how quickly you can get to radiation.
Okay.
So if we can lower the recovery time, get you radiation quicker, there is a slight increase in the better outcome.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And maybe that's what Laura was trying to explain with why they're doing a lumpectomy with her. And very different from 15 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah, so people, and I went into it going like, hey, these girls are huge. I'm over it.
Right.
Take them. No love lost.
Yep.
And over and over and over again, like the amount of times I've had this conversation, you say to people like, so you got a mastectomy, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And they think that not getting a mastectomy is some sort of vanity and in touch with their femininity or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And medically, it's just not like that anymore.
Right.
You know? So now, is the complete mastectomy for some people, everybody's cancer is different.
Sure.
And so your team is going to suggest different things based on the outcomes.
Yeah.
You know, and so for me, there's no difference in the rate of recurrence for a complete mastectomy versus the lumpectomy.
Right. And if you can recover quicker and get to radiation sooner, then that's what makes the most sense.
You know, and what they said to me is, however, we could see need for a medical breast reduction for you.
Okay.
And so we'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that was just an added bonus, like, so since you have cancer,
we're gonna fix your boobs right up, sister.
We'll give you perky boobs and smaller ones. I'm like, yes! Sweet!
And cancer. You don't hear that every day.
And I get perky boobies.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
Okay.
So originally what happened was, the other thing about cancer is that one of the things that I'd heard a long time ago and I forgot about until I experienced it. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I went in and I told my boss, and I was like, I just need you to know if I'm a little off kilter, this is why.
Sure.
And also, I'm going to need to have my cell phone nearby, and I'm going to answer calls at all sorts of times and walk out of meetings and.
Yeah.
And he's like, absolutely no problem.
Great.
Okay, cool. So I would also say, you know, in addition to asking yourself if you want to be a good friend, I would ensure that you are telling a certain amount of people who can help you keep the poker face.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's hard. And so if somebody notices something's weird, who are they going to go to?
Right.
Well, they might go to your boss, they might go to your best friend, whatever.
Right.
Tell those people
Yeah.
to help keep the situation calm.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Let's not gossip and overreact and blow it out of proportion.
Yeah. Or make it harder on yourself, because now you have your closest network coming to you and being like, what gives?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, like, that's just making it harder on yourself.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I feel about it. Other people can do it differently. Other people have a better poker face than me, and I don't have a good one. So whatever. So originally what happened is the phone's ringing left, right, and center. And left, right, and center. You know, and so at my desk, I had like a U-shaped desk. Mm-hmm. And so on two sides, the L, I had work, and on the other arm, I had cancer. Mm-hmm. So I had my notebook laid out, I had everything laid out, and the cell phone would ring. I'd say, this is Jenny. And then it'd be like, hey, this is some random office that I didn't even know was going to be calling me, and to schedule this. Oh, this doctor ordered this test. Da, da, da. It's constant calls in the beginning. And it is constantly derailing you emotionally. Like, you're like, and it's silly because it's like, it's just an appointment. Why are you getting upset over an appointment? Like, they're just calling to schedule an appointment.
Well,
and
it's not just teeth cleaning.
Right. And it's this, like, you're, okay, I've got this thing. You're staying focused. Today I'm going to get this done. Mm-hmm. It's not going to change that I have cancer or don't have cancer. And there's these disruptions, these constant, like, okay, this is not a normal life and experience, you know?
Right.
So anyway, so what happened is, you know, I started treatment, and then I got a call from radiology. Before I started treatment, I got a call from radiology. Hey, we're reviewing your mammograms, which I don't know what the process is there, but I'm pretty impressed at, I don't know what was the catalyst for that. We're reviewing your mammograms, and in reviewing them, there's an area that we have concern over. Can you come down? We need to do another biopsy. And it's like, sure, okay. You know, like jumping in a pool in early May. It's hot as hell outside. You think the pool looks great, and you jump in, and it knocks the air out of you, and you're like, oh, okay, sure, I can do that, you know. And so you go down, and it's like, okay, when do you want me to do that? Today? Do you have available? Like, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like,
can you leave work now?
Yeah, and it's like, okay, no problem at all. Sure, thanks for calling. And, you know, you go another biopsy. Well, that happened 2 times. So one of the times I had started treatment November 23rd, and the second time that happened was December 8th. And I was supposed to have appointments that afternoon. And they called me that morning. Hey, we're reviewing. We found another area we're concerned about. We want you to come down right now, get a biopsy in before your appointments this afternoon. Sure, no problem. Sure, we'll do that. So I had 2 sets of biopsies here, because the second set of biopsies was for the clinical trial. I had a set of biopsies here and a set of biopsies here. And these 2 warranted 2 extra phone calls of like, Chicken Little, the sky's falling.
Got it.
So what it turned out is, you know, this is the cancer that we know.
Yep.
This is what they had checked out, had been an area of concern. It was a fibro, I can't remember what it was. It was a fibroadenoma.
Okay.
Was over here. And then when they did the additional biopsies, it was a fibroepithelial lesion. Well, a fibroepithelial lesion can turn into cancer. So it's like, all right, you're gone.
Yeah.
And then this area, which is one they called about on December 8th, like, hey, we found another area. This area is an acronym called PASH, P-A-S-H. And basically, it's not cancer. It's not ever going to be cancer. You know, you're just growing things. Yeah, you. And so when I went to the breast surgeon was like, hey, a mastectomy, you know, if you are adamant about the mastectomy, we'll do it. However, that being said, let me go through all the numbers. Let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about the percentages. Let's talk about the data. And so she was very, very informative. Like, it wasn't just, like, it was very much giving me a lot of information in a very educational way, not talking over my head, being very inclusive, making sure I was up to speed with where we were at in the conversation. And then also saying, like, if you're adamant about this, I will do that. I feel better about this path, but, you know, we can discuss that, you know. I was like, you know, I go with you, you know, if that's the best path, if there's only a slight increase, but it happens on this path, I want to go with that path.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, well, definitely we need to get rid of the fibroepithelial lesion. The PASH is no big deal. I was thinking we would just leave it, and obviously we need to remove the cancer. And I said, well, so long as my body's growing things that it doesn't need, can we just...
Right, yeah.
And she's like, absolutely.
Sure.
So June 10th was the triple lumpectomy.
Okay.
And because she knew I was getting the breast reduction, she's like, I'm going to go ahead and take more tissue than I would even normally take. Okay, great. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Yeah. And so the triple lumpectomy happens. They take, I think, 4 lymph nodes here just because they inject the dye in your nipple and then see where the dye feeds. And then that first tier of lymph nodes are what they take.
Okay.
Because if the cancer were to spread, it would go this way. Now, along the way, early on, they have all these tests that they do to check the lymph nodes and scans and things like that. And there was no indication that I had lymph node involvement. So we didn't anticipate there being lymph node involvement, which is great. And so anyway, so they took out like 4 lymph nodes here. And so we, the great thing is that I had a complete response to chemo, and they got clear margins on the surgery. So the best of the best of the best is what happened. Wow. No lymph node involvement, everything was great. The fibroepithelial lesion, all that was gone. The PASH, interestingly enough, because she took more than she normally would take, the PASH was fine. What she happened to pick up was something that didn't get picked up on the mammogram, and it was stage 0 DCIS. So
which is what?
DCIS, I don't remember what it actually stands for. DCIS, and if you're listening and you have DCIS, I am not saying this to you at all. I am not saying this.
Okay.
DCIS is the cancer that is the one that makes everybody go, oh, they've done, like, this is, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
DCIS is like the one you want to have.
If you gotta have it, this is the one.
Yeah.
Not to belittle anyone that
correct.
does have
like,
it.
I'm saying, I have a very different feeling about that. And the reason I have a different feeling about that is that when I found out I had DCIS in my right breast, so my surgeon calls me, she's on vacation, she's so wonderful, and she's like, I'm going to call you with the results. Okay, great. So my surgeon calls me, super excited, and she's like, Jenny, complete response, clear margins, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. The right breast gave us a little surprise, and we found DCIS, but clear margins, that's gone. And so
I'm sorry, rewind.
I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And so I'm again, like, what I relate it to is when my kids were little and they would fall and scrape their knee or something like that, and they would fall, I would be like, yay! And I would run over to them, like, celebrating that they did something good. And
you distracted them.
Right.
Oh.
Like, this is great. Cry. I'm not supposed to cry. And so you would see them when they were really hurt. You would see this, like, like they're trying to mirror your emotion.
You're very good in analogies, by the way. Just saying.
Thanks. So I'm very visual. So, like, I try to. So they're mirroring your emotion while experiencing this pain, and they're having their own independent emotion related to it. And so it's just like morphing, like you see their face all over their charts. And so, like, I'm mirroring her emotion because I'm like, okay, you're clearly knowledgeable, and I'm supposed to be excited right now. And up to this point, everything was so surreal. Like, it still is so surreal. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, I'm having this conversation about me having cancer. Like, I still feel like I'm lying. Like, it's still, by and large, just feels really surreal.
For me, though, the takeaway is they were going to leave this in there, and had they have left that in there, you would have, I mean, it wouldn't have been a recurrence, but you would have had more cancer down the road when that finally turned into something.
Yeah, so DCIS could possibly be nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like it could turn into nothing. It doesn't, not all DCIS turns into full-blown cancer. DCIS is considered cancer. There's still a lot of science. We're still learning a lot about it. The people who are not advocates for early detection, it is that one, in my understanding, that they get really up in arms about. My thing is that if you're going to take a chance, make it your body.
Yeah.
You know, are we rolling the dice on that? Like they look at numbers and say X amount of percentage, it didn't turn into blah, 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 or we overreacted to this or whatever. And it's like, well, how do you know other than time?
So you've, in under a year, gone from totally no issue with the multiple mammograms to having cancer in one breast, to then finding additional cancer in an area that they were going to leave.
Correct.
Doing a clinical trial, getting the lumpectomies. You are now cancer-free completely.
Correct. I had the
in
breast
less
reduction.
Than a year.
Yeah, I had the breast reduction in the end of June, and then I started radiation the end of July, and I did 6 weeks of radiation. So I did 20. So then my treatment plan changed from radiation to this side, on this side only, to radiation across both sides. And so then I had 25 sessions across both sides, and you go every weekday. So I had 25 sessions across both sides, and then I had 5 targeted sessions on where the cancer was here on this side.
And so how long have you been cancer-free?
Well, technically you're cancer-free after surgery,
okay,
as I understand it.
Right, because they got it out.
Yeah, so technically you're cancer-free after surgery. And a lot of times what people don't understand is the significance of the trifecta. It's like, well, if you're cancer-free, why do radiation? Well, so it's like a filtering process, right? And so like the chemo is designated to like shrink it. Some people get surgery first, like, and that's why it's like, it doesn't make anybody wrong. It's your specific case.
Yeah, everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody's different. And so the chemo shrinks it and does it all it can to kill as many of those cells. The surgery removes it. And then what happens with chemo is chemo only kills it in a certain phase of the cell, in a certain stage of the cell.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So if we're talking about, you know, from 0 to 10, maybe chemo only kills the cell in stages 4 to 7, maybe. You know,
so if it's in another stage, it hasn't been impacted by the chemo, so that's when the radiation comes.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got
So
it.
that's the thing, and that's why you do chemo over a period of time as well, because you want all of those. You want all of that picked up. And so surgery removes it, and then what radiation does is it comes behind on this clean sweep and all these kind of microscopic things. And that's why, like with Jody's case, you know, Jody said, it's just outside of the radiation. It's just outside of the radiation. It's just outside of the radiation. And I heard her story, and I got chills again. Like the other day, when I was looking at her story, and I was like, it was a lot for me.
I have
It was a lot for me.
5 friends going through this right now, none of which I knew when we planned this event, right? They all kind of came out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
2, so one has shared, Laura, who's a good friend of ours, shared.
The one in the paddock.
Yes.
Yeah.
I met Jody, didn't know her before, met you, didn't know you before, and the others are not ready to share, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But for those of you that are willing to come forward and share, not just your journey and your thoughts and your experience and your process, because they're all very different.
Yeah.
I have to thank you again, because so many women reach out after seeing these and go, oh my God, I'm going through this. And I felt so alone, and so thank you for sharing this. So from them to you and to the Jodys and the Lauras
too.
We just, it's a lot to share this. So
And
what would you say to someone hesitant to get an ultrasound, or putting it off because they've got little kids, or they're busy, or they're whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about it is that, you know, you have to ask yourself why.
Yeah.
You know, why are you doing that? And ultimately, there's not a good enough reason. And, you know, fear puts us in that position. I think the only reason in my mind, and you know, we can't dictate the value of someone's reasons.
No, totally.
We can't do that. You know, Jody brought up not having insurance. I mean, that's a handicap. You know, like I'm with Jody. If I didn't have insurance, I wouldn't have gotten tested.
Well, before my whole thing, I had 3 scares.
Yeah.
And I couldn't move forward with anything because I didn't have insurance. So I waited till I had insurance. So, I mean, I get that.
Yeah, that's I don't know what the solution is out there. I do know that there are more affordable insurance companies that are coming about. I actually have a friend that started an insurance company um, for people who are more impoverished, and it's starting up in the mountains where there's a huge amount of poverty.
That's
so
awesome.
It's not anything in our region
Yet.
that they can exercise. But he is from this area, so that's his objective: is bring it down the mountain effectively.
That's
And,
amazing.
and so we've come a long way. The Affordable Care Act, we've come a long way. But just go get it done. Because the alternative, the worst thing that happens is it's a kink in your daily schedule. And I mean, the best thing that happens is a kink in your daily schedule, and it was nothing, and it was nothing.
And we all know what the worst thing is.
Right. And the worst thing is actually not going.
Well,
That genuinely is the worst thing, because you're underestimating the impact psychologically and emotionally that this is the toll this is having on you. And denial gets us a long way, but in my case, had I waited, it could have cost me my life.
Well, that's
quite
a lot
literally.
of it.
Well, the other thing I would say is that this experience is so different for so many people. You could have the most mild diagnosis and have the most adverse reaction to your treatment. You can, and I think the other thing too is, as women, there's that competitive piece, and we got to stop that nonsense. That competitive mom piece, that competitive, we got to stop that nonsense. We got to be each other's cheerleaders. I don't care if your diagnosis was the equivalent of somebody else's hangnail, and you had,
that's not what it's about.
That's not what it's about. And my thing is what my DCIS taught me is everything was so surreal. When I got the call about the DCIS, it wasn't surreal. It was very real. I very much understood, and it was hard. The DCIS piece was hard on me, because now I got the call that I have cancer, and I get it.
For sure.
And so it helped frame it for me that if I didn't have this other cancer, I would now be getting a call that I had cancer. My thing is that we need to be hugely empathetic with one another. I don't give a rip. Your tough day is your tough day, and quantifying it. And so many times, the other thing is, if you're a friend to a cancer person, still be that friend that needs something. Still be that friend that has a tough day and calls you. And, you're going to be like, I'm crying to you over this, and you're going through all your stuff. Hey, guess what? My cancer doesn't make your bad day any better.
It doesn't minimize your bad day.
Yeah. So, just still be you, and reach out and post videos and
live your life.
And live your life, and I have this whole thing, this mantra I took from when my niece died, and that's what this is. And it's love big, laugh hard, make memories, live generously.
I love that.
And that's
I love that.
That's my life mantra after I lost my niece. I needed something to come from that.
That's a good one.
And then when this came along, it was like, okay, love big, laugh hard, make memories, live generously. And that's what we all do. Let's just keep doing that. And
I think that's a good mantra for life and to share, and for all of us to kind of.
And the other thing too with social media is that if you can post those videos and share of yourself, it makes the conversations easier. So when people see you, you're not having to have those conversations over and over and over again. You're having them on your terms, in your time, in your home space. And people have access to you, and then when they see you, all it is support.
Absolutely.
It's just support. And so I would strongly encourage a video thing, and just occasionally getting on there and being like, hey,
here's the update.
I had chemo yesterday, and this is what it looks like. And I would really encourage that. It's going to be more helpful to you than you would think. And like I said, it makes those conversations, when you see people out and about, you're not having to do this update 50 million times. It's just like, hey, and then it's a more intimate conversation, and it's,
more what it should be.
And it makes you more approachable too, because it scares people. Your diagnosis scares them.
And they don't, and a lot of times too, it's the handicap of not knowing what to say, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I want to be supportive, so it's all of that.
You give them permission to talk about it, And also in your video, you could say, I love you guys. I don't want to talk about it. When you come up to me, please just act like nothing's happening. And you could set the boundary there. They'll honor it.
That, and they want you to let them know.
They just want to do what you want them to do. And that video, they get to have access to you. It helps calm them down, and you get to be like, hey, I love you. I'm not answering
Yeah, we're
your
not
text.
talking about that. Yeah, I love it. Well, Jenny, thank you
guys.
so
Jenny,
much.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.